This is Indie Book Publishing. Indie Book Publishing is a show about new books and the authors who wrote them. It's an opportunity for prospective readers to hear directly from the writers, to hear what inspired them to write and publish, and to hear all the inside details about their books. And now, Indie Book Publishing with your host, Steve Jorgensen.
The title of the book, The Bonesaw Trail. And the author is Dorian Dalta, and Dorian joins us now on Indie Book Publishing, this interview brought to you by Balboa Press. Hello, Dorian.
Hey there.
Well, this is a very unique book, kind of exciting from this point of view of going on a road trip. And, of course, this road trip takes us into all kinds of different dimensions, as we will learn as we talk to you more about your book. Let me read just a couple of things, though, kind of set the tone and the setting for what we're going to talk about in detail. You say this: the Bonesaw Trail chronicles two characters, Bonesaw and the first-person character of Johnny. The chapters flip-flops from each of these characters. The stories are seemingly different accounts, yet as the story progresses, a tie is realized. Things from one side of the story start showing up in the other story. Grand revelations are realized as the paths of Bonesaw and Johnny converge. You also say it's a story of two friends, each drawing path toward one another, yet something is amiss, something that perhaps only life and death can answer. Well, that's obviously... right, that sentence alone we could probably talk the rest of the time about, couldn't we?
Right.
Well, Dorian, tell us, how did this all come about? What was the motivation? What was the drive to publish this kind of book?
Boy, yeah, you kind of said it there, too. I think life often and death really, too, it feels like that sometimes, where it seems like there's, loose ends that need to be tied that you just can't quite get your fingers around, or there's, the spaghetti noodles are left hanging off the plate, and you want to clean them up as best you can, and you're just not quite able. And so, this particular story, really it began as nothing more than really some simple kind of journal entries just from my life, and lost a buddy, maybe 5 years back, and just remember that being, in a lot of ways it was very sharp, and you can tell it's kind of a real poignant time, and then there it's very foggy too. And so I just remember kind of wanting to write down and at least capture kind of the sharpness of the emotionality I was feeling, and really, as I kind of began doing that, I kind of kept writing around those ideas, and then just kind of capturing other things that were kind of happening in my life at that time, and really before long, it was like I realized that I probably, with a little work could kind of pound a book out of it, and so that's kind of really essentially the genesis of how this all began. So really, that's kind of the meat and potatoes.
What's the significance of this road trip as a theme?
Boy, I think that can be viewed in a lot of different ways. The real obvious metaphor for the idea that our lives are a path and a road and those sorts of things, I think is pretty obvious. But I know at the time I was writing this, I just had some time, and I had left kind of a significant job that I was working, and because of that was allowed some nice freedom, and so I just was out kind of driving around and kind of visited really most of the eastern half of the United States, and so I think that's where I kind of captured some of that essence, and so I think it served as a nice metaphor for the story of these two characters. And so I think that comes through as you read.
Well, let's talk about these two characters, Bonesaw, and then there's Johnny. Tell us about them.
Both of them were really best friends. And there were a group of four of us, and we referred to ourselves as the Inner Circle. And it was me and Johnny and Bonesaw, and there was another gentleman named Scotty. And, Johnny, as in the book, was, by appearance a pretty menacing kind of character, tattoos, long hair, just a big fella, and honestly kind of a whiskey-drinking, cigarette-smoking fella who just, you just knew kind of not to, to mess with. And, of course, if you knew him, he was a very gentle guy, and so he really didn't do a whole lot, quite honestly. He was kind of afforded some things in the way of kind of monetary freedom where he just didn't really have to do much, and so he really didn't. And so, he kind of stuck around home, and I guess, just a really interesting, kind of a magnetic guy, but you kind of had to know him, and it was tough to get close to him. But if you did, he was amazing. I mean, and you didn't really kind of know sometimes if he was going to be the guy that would really, kind of help garner you and help you out, or if he was going to kind of give you a hard time. And so it was always kind of this, I don't know, he was an interesting guy. Bonesaw, I guess I kind of knew him, obviously knew him well, and he was a bartender, where I'm from in the Midwest, and then had gone to the Virgin Islands and continued his bartending career. And so we all, and at that time, at the time of the writing of this book, I was in Salt Lake City, and so we all maintained contact, but we were kind of spread out, and so we would travel around and see each other, and so, we maintained our friendship and such. But so I think, the Bonesaw Trail, probably in certain ways is a story of maintaining those loose connections, really, in a way. Now that I'm kind of talking my way through this, it's interesting how we were, disconnected by proximity, but certainly very, very connected by our essence, let's say. We really maintained contact and really knew that we shared something, very special in the way of friendship. And so, yeah, interesting indeed.